Hey everyone, are you a solo player in Dune Awakening? And if so, are you like me, a relatively mediocre player whose main concern when soloing the dungeons in the deep desert is being mobbed by melee units? If so, Retaliate might be the skill for you. It's a relatively cheap skill on the Swordmaster ladder here, and it applies 120% weapon damage and bleed effect. And it works really well with the AOC, or the area of control effects of a longsword. But its main benefit really is that it's way easier than a standard parry if you are a mediocre player and struggle with the skill. So you can literally just set it going and let it do the parry work for you. So this guy here is going to give me an opportunity to demonstrate this. In fact, there's two of them, which is good, right? So all I do, I set up and bleed effects has hit in, and with my skill, with a few longsword boosts and stuff, you can see that first unit that I managed to get that bleed effect and that damage booster onto went down straight away. The other guy who didn't have that damage multiplier boosted managed to run away and has now managed to heal themselves, and so gonna cause me some problems. No problem, I can take them down again, but it's you can see the benefit of that Retaliate skill and how it makes life easier. So I've ventured into the deep desert PvP area today with the hope of getting a little bit more fancy loot than I would in the PvE area, so I'm hoping for some peace and quiet. My server can be quite quiet, so I might get lucky. Let's have a look. So once I've managed to take down the melee folk, I've got some options of what I do with the remainder of the NPCs here. Now I used to play almost entirely melee, and that would mean just with guys like this, I'd use something like Idaho's knee charge or the weirding step, which I should be able to show fairly shortly, to take down these guys. But they've become a little bit more sophisticated, and so I've started to move to some more combinations of different techniques to take these down. I'm going to demonstrate some of those alongside this Retaliate skill in this video. So that's the first wave done. Let's see who comes out of this door now. Now, one of the other tools in my arsenal is this Regis triple shot rifle. I don't think this works very well in the in these deep desert dungeons. It's a little bit fun, but you can see I can fire 3 at this guy. It doesn't really do anything. I much prefer the Seethe. The Seethe is a pistol essentially, but it deals immense headshot damage. So when you have some of the other skills boosted, you can take down most of these unshielded guys with 2 shots there. It does require a bit of bravery because you kind of have to stand there and take the damage, and it doesn't work very well at distance if you are not very accurate. He was almost going to get back up then. But it's cool nonetheless, right? And I do still sometimes use these melee attacks with these guys. I also have in my arsenal the lightning gun. This isn't going to be much use against guys like this just yet, because he's going to be able to shoot at me when my shields go down. But it'll come into its own later, as we'll see a little bit. But I do love how fun this Seethe is. Now, as for armour in my build, I've gone for well, any melee armour's good enough. I actually weirdly have forge armour on at the moment. Pincushion armour is good if you are doing this kind of combination stuff of using your pistol on occasion or your guns, because it will mitigate some of the damage from the darts when your shields go down when you use your rifle. Excellent, we've got 2 of these guys now. Now, unfortunately, when they do use a Suspensor Blast, they do seem to be immune to this Retaliate ability. So I managed to apply the bleed effect to one of them at least, but you can see that it's so much easier than a standard parry, but also means that you can slice them once. If I use a standard parry with this, the damage is not going to be sufficient to take them down in one hit, so I will have to hit them at least twice. So there's a massive benefit to this Retaliate. Now, it does have its disadvantages, of course. It's not... It takes up one of your ability slots that you could be using for something else. It also makes you get a bit lazy, because I tend to use it when a normal parry would be good enough, and I suspect that doing some of the overland map dungeons would probably be a little bit more difficult using this. It's great for running through them, but on the bosses you need a different strategy there, typically. On that note, there is another ability, which I will show you just as I've taken this guy down, called Foil. I haven't tried this, but it's similar to Retaliate, but instead of a bleed effect, you get a 10-second enemy damage reduction. Now, I haven't tested that against the melee bosses that exist both on the Suboid map and the Poison map, but I have a feeling that could be an interesting thing to try out. So, if you have tried that out, let me know. I'd love to hear whether it has actually been successful or not. One strategy of dealing with these guys is to hide behind something and then duck once you've managed to hit them, because they won't get much damage on you there. So, how are we doing? Was that that whole wave? Maybe it was. Oh no, there's one guy here, and there's also somebody with a grenade, which is typically a unshielded gunner, so I think we've got a couple more here. Yeah, so let's try and take this guy out. Just always remember to make sure that you're not in the path of several people with guns at once, because that's what's going to hurt you in melee armor. No big drama when I've got a bunch of heal kits with me. Also, make sure you stay hydrated. The hydration has a massive effect on the stamina you have, and if you do want to dash away from people, you're going to want that. Stamina. Lovely. I have the Spice Prescience ready to go if I need it, but I tend not to need it unless I really start to get mobbed and start to panic. So with a little bit of luck, I won't need to use that. It would give me some stamina benefits or something similar to that, or healing or cooldowns for the timers, but I shouldn't need it. Now, you can also wait until they're reloading to take these guys out, but I'd rather sometimes just take the damage and then worry about the healing later, just because I want to focus on speed here, especially because I'm in the PvP zone, so I don't want to be hanging around here too much just in case somebody comes and spoils my party. You can see when you manage to get a headshot on these guys, because it will give you a red indicator once you've hit them. Now I'm getting quite lucky in this dungeon in that I'm rarely getting more than 2 of these melee guys attack me at once, but I'm actually in a relatively good position if they do manage to mob me because of the area of effect of the long swords. I know that people seem to love the rapiers. I really rate the area of effects benefit of the longsword. So even though you can't attack as much, you can see if you only need to one slice most of these guys, you don't need that anyway. Okay. Sometimes they just stand there, which is kind of fun. I should have reloaded. Rookie mistake. Alright, now we're down to flamethrowers, and that's where this this experimental lightning gun comes in really handy. I've only recently got this, but I really enjoy it because you can just keep these guys at range and just pick them off. You used to be able to do this with the likes of the Seethe, just keep them at arm's length and only worry about them, you know, just shoot them at distance, but they've become a bit more sophisticated, and they now no longer try and attack you with a flamethrower until you're in range. So if you really need to, you can use something like Seethe, get close to them, and then back off when they start flaming at you, but then you run the risk of setting yourself on fire like that. So, and then obviously if there's only one of them, you can just use your blade, because you're going to struggle to do that if there's a group of them, because if you get in the mix of them that are all together, they're going to make your life difficult by swamping you with flames whilst you're trying to melee at one of the guys. So it's just really nice to get at them with this this new toy. Now it should be, when I'm waiting for respawn, should be opportunity to reload all of my weapons. So sometimes for a bit of fun when they first spawn out here, just give them some grief with the triple shot. It doesn't really do very much. I mistimed that one, so that's not going to do me much good, but you see they're both staggered there, which is great, and it just means I can attack both of them because they both seem to suffer that stagger damage. Nice, so that was nice and easy. He's a gunner rather than a flamethrower, so I don't want to hang around him too much when they're all trying to get at me and all trying to drain my shields there. So this is going to be a bit of a difficult wave for me because I'm not perfectly set up for these as these gunners. You see, another benefit of the Retaliate skill there is that it actually just arms your sword. So if you were running around with one of your pistols out, you can just arm it with that Retaliate ability, and that's just allowed me to take that down. I did need to use a standard parry there just to buy myself a little bit of time, but you see, I get lazy. I sometimes don't bother to do a full parry because the Retaliate's going to get me where I need quicker. That's like I say, that's one of the disadvantages with using this parry function, is that if you start to rely on it, you might struggle a little bit in some of the more difficult overland map levels where you're going to need to have a strategy to deal with more difficult melee situations. And you really want to try every now and again to practice the timing of your parries, just so that you don't lose that skill. Or alternatively, that you build that skill if it's a skill that you don't have. Because once you get in a situation like this, which is relatively easy, you should be using that as an opportunity to test out some new moves, if you like. I'm trying to find a good situation. This might be a good situation. Most maps have got somewhere like this where you can kind of pick people off and kite them into and work with. this one's a particularly good one for that. There's one or two really bad ones. There's one or two which have got multiple lock-in areas, and they're really open. So you just run the risk of just being taken down by gunners, especially. So, but most of them are like this, and you're gonna find yourself with some options. I do love how fun that seethe can be. Oh, when you go down, I mean it. There we go. Cool.
Get the fuck!
So there is another. I'm using a replica pulse sword. It gives you that option against the melee, the unshielded gunners to swipe at them and gives you a bit of a stamina boost. There is another weapon called the spike hilt, which also applies bleed. Now, because I'm using this Retaliate ability, I don't really need that. But it could be handy against some of those melee bosses in the overland map. Again, haven't tested it, but it could be handy in combination with the foil ability or just on its own. So the bleed ability is not the biggest effect in terms of damage, but it can just make that slight amount of difference. It's always nice. Once you've taken them down to one, you normally get the opportunity to finish the last one off. Brilliant. Now, my main concern now is managing to finish this off without any other players joining me in this dungeon, because I would like a bit of peace and quiet if possible. It's just how I like to play. I'm not really the sort of person that likes to have the anxiety of fighting other players, which is exactly why I have a nice, easy way of clearing these. It's relaxation for me rather than a difficult challenge. For some reason I've lost a lot of health. Maybe my shield was down when that grenade came. I need to reload one of these weapons. I dislike being set on fire. Now, are we down to just the flamethrowers? Can I just pick off these guys now? That's annoying, because I just managed to take his shield down and stagger him, which would have given me a damage boost. But then the other guy got in the way, so... Doesn't really matter, they're both going to go eventually, so... And that was the gong, I think. I think we're finished. Yeah, lovely. So let's run through this as quick as we can. I want to get out of here before anybody finds me. So what have I got? Seleucid Vengeance? I'm not even sure I've had that one before. It's certainly not one that I seek out, but there's some good loot in the PvP areas here. You can get a young Sparky, and supposedly the adaptive Holtzman shield is available as well. Now, on that note, I do have the Young Sparky equipped for this. Don't really need it. Could easily do this with just a Mark 6 power pack. The adaptive Holtzman would surely help, but I don't have that. I only have a Mark 5 Holtzman shield, so you know, it's perfectly doable. You will want unique melee armor if you can, that's tier 6 and above, but it's probably not essential. You'd probably do it with regular tier 6 stuff. Oh, hey, there's some intel. Not sure I needed it, but yeah. So I hope you found this fun. I love playing like this. It's just quite relaxing. There's no drama, and as you can see, I'm even relatively happy to take it into the PvP zone because I can get it finished relatively quickly and disappear. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you've got a different way of dealing with melee mobs. I know this is a lazy way, so I'd love to hear any different ways. And yeah, speak to you soon.